So I just wanted to record an audio clip for my viewers because I kind of want your personal opinions and I want to let you know an issue that I personally have a question about. So I kind of have to explain some petty gossip from when I was in college. If you guys listen to my earlier, because this goes back to when I was 18. So if you guys listen to some of my earlier videos, I did like 5 videos about how I was in an on and off relationship with alcoholic for 2 years, and 2 out of the 4 times that he broke up with me, so the second and third time that he broke up with me, it's because he left me for Sherry. And if you listen to my videos, I explain that when I was in college, I started dating G, and I was friends with this guy named Nick, and I ate lunch with him a couple of times. But I didn't really know him that well, and I never really got to know him because I started, and then like a month later he graduated. And anyway, if I were to look back over my life, I would say that I do not have a good impression of Nick because on top of first off, I'm just going to tell you that I don't really know him that well. And then second of all, if you listen to my videos, it says that I should explain, so I was dating G, and then he left me for Sherry twice, and Nick is Sherry's brother, and Nick is the one that got Sherry and G hooked up, and they exchanged phone numbers and everything because of Nick, and that's what G told me, and he's like, yeah, well, I was friends with Nick from, before I went to school there and everything. And he's like, yeah, I was friends with Nick, and then he and I started talking, and then he gave me his sister's phone number. And so if I were to look back, I would say that I don't like Nick. I kind of had bad experiences with him. And I thought that he was kind of a player, and he was super friendly, and he would go up and he would to women that he knew, and he would just kiss them on the cheek and all this, even though he was getting married to somebody else, and I thought that was a little weird. And anyway, the time that I briefly knew Nick, I didn't really get a good impression, so after this whole fiasco happened with me and G and Sherry, I immediately deleted Nick off of my MySpace and had no contact with him anymore. So, basically what the problem that I personally had with Nick is that while G and I were on and off, I was friends with Nick over MySpace, and because I had added him, and then the problem that I had is that the second time that G dumped me for Sherry, which is the third time that G dumped me in total, I been staying, a week at G's house and everything. We started having sex and everything, and then Nick, about a week later, Nick sent me a message over MySpace and everything, and it was this really, really long paragraph and everything like that. And first of all, he made a really big thing, and he said that G had been on a 3-way call with his sister, so it was G, Sherry, and Nick, and they were all G was talking about talking about trash about me the whole time, and just saying that he just wanted, just kind of use me and stuff like that. And then I don't know, and Nick sent me this really long paragraph and everything like that. And so what ended up happening is, the third time G broke up with me and left me for Sherry, I obviously I cut off all contact with any of them. And then when G called me back, like at least a year later, the fourth time he wanted to get back into a relationship with me, I brought that up to him pretty quickly. That was like the first thing that, I brought up and everything. And I'm like, well, listen, G, Nick was on my MySpace, and then he sent me like a page-long explanation, and he claims that you were, talking a bunch of trash and everything, and all you wanted to do was just get me in the sack. And then I talked to G, and I told him what had happened, and then he says, well, I never said anything like that to Nick and everything. And then, like, looking back, because I wasn't into tarot cards then, but I did my tarot cards on it probably about 6 months ago. And looking back on it, from what I had first imagined, I think that I do believe my ex. I don't think that he was talking trash, because when I did the cards on him and then I did the cards on Nick, it was just a bunch of sword cards, because I had 2 separate Y spreads, and I asked my cards, is my ex line or is Nick line? And with Nick, it was like a whole bunch of swords and everything, and I think he might have been just making that up about G. But anyway, I recently, if you watch my videos and everything, and you know what I'm about, I don't know how to hear spirits. I still need to get into the realm where I can communicate and hear them. But they can hear me in person. All you need to do is call a spirit forward, of a deceased friends or family, and ask for gifts and ask for whatever you need, and they are right there. So I talk to, all my deceased friends and family at least once a day. I talk out loud even though I can't hear them. And I actually found out last night that Nick, the one that got in the middle of me and Sherry and G, he recently, so this is probably about 6 weeks ago, he committed suicide on Halloween. And I just kind of I was completely shocked, especially since he's so young. He's only a few months older than I am, and he's in the 20s, and it was very unfortunate, because regardless of the personal problems that we had, he was very successful in his personal life. He had a college degree, and he went on after that, and he went to serve in the military and everything for at least a year. But they ended up saying that he had been suffering for many years. I'm not sure whether he was suffering at the time, but I know that once he was in his mid-20s, he ended up suffering with, post-traumatic stress disorder and, mental illness. And they said on his obituary, like an alcohol problem and stuff like that, and a drug problem and everything, and he ended up committing suicide. I think he just overdosed on pills on purpose on Halloween. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to vent my own personal opinion, see what you guys think. I don't know, because I'm very into active talking with, saints and and deceased friends and family members out loud, even though I can't hear them yet. I need to get into that a little bit more and let down the veil. But I don't know if I should talk to Nick, and maybe this is a good time in spirit form to patch things up, because once a deceased spirit has, you shouldn't be mad at deceased spirits for what they have done to you after they pass, because once they go into heaven, their thinking is a lot more clear, and they don't have the daily stresses and post-traumatic stress disorder and pills and alcohol and stuff that we do. And I don't know whether it actually might be a good time to talk to Nick about his suicide and address the issues that we had in college and everything, and the lies that he spread, and try to clear things up. And I don't know if I should just leave it alone, because first off, even though we did have, personal issues, in addition to that, I don't really know him that well, because I only knew him a month and in school and stuff, and I had started school right before he was about to graduate, so I didn't really get to know him that well. And then we exchanged phone numbers, and then after that he went to Iraq and did a tour, so we kind of lost contact. And then I added him on my MySpace, and then we didn't really have a whole lot of contact from there. So, I mean, I do think it would kind of be interesting to have the perspective of a young guy my age that committed suicide, and to talk to him. I do have a deceased friend that's younger than me that was murdered, and she's my age. But I don't know whether I should talk to Nick or not.